Let's break this down with Chief Counsel for Nominations in the Senate Judiciary Committee and the founder of the Article 3 Project, Mike Davis. Mike, our viewers don't know that, we've been in touch all week. You've been giving me sort of your feedback and your thoughts on these cases, and this was a moment that really stuck out to you.
Yeah, I mean, it shows that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is outside of the judicial mainstream with her views on that child pornographers are not pedophiles and therefore they're not dangerous and therefore we shouldn't put them in prison. And then she ordered significantly lower sentences, rock bottom sentences for 7 of 7 people who possess and distribute child pornography. When she served as 8 years as a district court judge, she advocated on her own in the private practice of law for the release of Gitmo terrorists. She argued that all the way to the Supreme Court. 729 were released, 229 returned to terrorist activities, 12 killed 6 American soldiers and civilians, and now we're learning that she's on this board of the Georgetown, or this school in Washington, D.C. that is very woke, and she goes to the Senate Judiciary Committee. And it's a rushed hearing. Justice Breyer's not even stepping down till the end of June. She has not been fully vetted. We don't have all of her records that we've had in prior Supreme Court nominations hearings. She wasn't prepared. And then what we did see is she doesn't share our values.
It's interesting to look at not so much what she said, but what she didn't say. She was asked so many times by Republicans in those hearings to clarify her judicial philosophy, which is essential to really looking at how she would decide cases, what kind of a justice she would be. And she kept referring back to a methodology. And I think there were a lot of questions whether she had a hidden agenda. What do you take away from sort of what type of justice, from the information that she gave members of the Judiciary Committee, what type of justice she would be?
I think that she's proven that on the D.C. District Court, where her judicial philosophy is Democrats win and Republicans lose. And we saw that in 2015 when she went out of her way to convolute the Freedom of Information Act, to shield Hillary Clinton's press secretary's work emails from public disclosure. And then a mere 4 years later, in 2019, she shredded 230 years of constitutional law and executive privilege to force White House counsel Don McGahn to testify against President Trump. She was overturned on appeal, including by Democrat judges. But it just shows that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is a judicial activist. I thought that she would go into this hearing more prepared and more reassuring, and she went into this hearing on a glide path to confirmation. I'm not so sure anymore. I think 2 weeks is an eternity in politics, as I learned the hard way running Justice Kavanaugh's confirmation on the Judiciary Committee.
Yeah, and I thought it was also significant, the fact that I believe it was on day 3 of the confirmation hearings, Republican Texas Senator Ted Cruz had asked her about whether she'd be willing to take up an affirmative action case for Harvard that was brought up. The lawsuit, of course, was brought up accusing Harvard admissions of favoring blacks and Latinos over Asian Americans, and she said that she would not take that case.
Yeah, it was an interesting development. I was surprised that she said that. She didn't have to make that announcement that day. It was very interesting. I think that the take out of this overall hearing is this is a Supreme Court nominee who is outside of the judicial mainstream. She doesn't share American values. She thinks that child pornographers are not pedophiles. She thinks that they're not dangerous. She thinks that we're too harsh on them. And she has taken that theory, contradicted by expert witnesses at the Sentencing Commission, and made it part of her mission on the district court. And it's troubling that she didn't have better answers. Senator Josh Hawley tweeted out several days before her hearing and told her on Monday in his opening statement that he would ask her about these 7 specific cases where she granted significant leniency to dangerous pedophiles. And she wasn't ready to discuss those cases on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, she said she couldn't remember that far back. Also interesting were the questions, which is obviously a big concern around packing the U.S. Supreme Court. She wouldn't answer that question, much to the frustration of the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who said other justices have taken firm positions on this. It's easy to know whether you support it or whether you don't. And she did not answer that question.
Yeah, it's strange because, judges generally don't weigh into political matters, but there is an exception when it deals with judicial independence. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg did it. Justice Breyer did it. Justice Gorsuch talked about judicial independence when President Trump nominated him to the Supreme Court. I ran that confirmation for him as one of his former law clerks. I mean, this is strange that she's not willing to stand up for judicial independence when the spotlight is on her.
Mike, I want to squeeze in one more quick one before we go. We know that several Republicans have clearly indicated that they're voting no, including Republicans that voted her during her D.C. District Court of Appeals confirmation. But do you think we'll see any sort of dissent on the Democratic side?
I think 2 weeks is an eternity, and as the more people learn about this, her policy, 25-year policy of leniency for sex offenders, including significantly lower sentences for dangerous pedophiles who look at child pornography. I think the more people learn about that, the more these senators are going to make this confirmation is going to go from a political win for Democrats to, at best, a political wash and maybe a political loss. There's a chance she doesn't get confirmed.
All right. Mike Davis, really appreciate you being with us. Thanks for spending a part of your Saturday, and always great to have your analysis.
Thank you.